What's good, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Live Wire Sports Media. This is your Motivation Monday edition. So, Caitlyn Clark was on the Sue Bird and Mia, whatever her name is, her other half, on a Touch More podcast, which was set up in Indiana during All Star Weekend. And Caitlyn Clark, appeared on there, which they have had talks with Caitlyn Clark before, but the latest thing that was with Caitlin Clark, when she had what I think Sue Bird did it from her other podcast, a bird's eye view, something like that. And she had Tina Charles on there. And we all took issue with the situation with Tina Charles in Connecticut, what happened to Caitlin Clark. But nevertheless, Caitlin Clark appeared on the Touch More podcast, and she talked about various things from being starstruck with LeBron. She talked about social media, how social media is just, it's not a real place. A lot of people do get caught up in social media. Every time something happened, a narrative, somebody's always posting something, just, all in their feelings and going crazy, instead of just, it's more emotional than logic thinking when it comes to stuff, especially on X. And then she talked about other stuff, but the main topic that everybody was running with today is that how Stephanie White has been limiting Caitlin Clark in her shot selection. Now Stephanie White has went in post game conferences and say, hey, you know I'm not worried about how many shots Caitlin Clark takes, but during games you see the opposite, because every time the Indiana Fever gets a run and Caitlin Clark leads the charge, there's a timeout. Caitlin Clark comes out for 2 minutes. Eric McDonald, Sid Colson comes in. The momentum slows down. And then, now, there was one incident that happened, and it was a few weeks back where Caitlin Clark came back from injury. They played the New York Liberty, in which the Indiana Fever beat the New York Liberty, but there was one moment in the game where Caitlin Clark hit three threes in 38 seconds. And then she shared a moment with Stewie and you can see Sandy Bardola in the background smiling and everything about it. Now, apparently, I guess Stephanie White wasn't happy with it. She didn't want Caitlin Clark to shoot it because there was points in the game, that point in the game, Stephanie White appeared to not look happy about it. But nevertheless, Caitlin Clark talked about it on the podcast, and a lot of people say, "Oh, well, she was joking about it. This is what Caitlin Clark said. She made it, and she was joking." But what do you think Caitlin Clark's supposed to say on that podcast? Oh, I did it anyway against my coach's rule. I felt like I had the hot hand. I was going to take the shot anyway. You know, So do you think she was going to throw her coach under the bus? No, but she made it a point to say, "Hey, Kate, it was advised, not advised by Steph, but she was saying in a joking way. But people think she was just joking. But no, if you look deep into it, Caitlin Clark knows that Stephanie White tries to control her shots. We've seen this last year with Chrissy Sides, but don't take my word for it. Just watch the clip.
I would say more so professionally, like that Liberty game. I feel like as a shooter, like when you see like two or three go in, especially like for me, like if I have two back to back in a row, like I'm probably gonna launch a third that maybe isn't advised by
For
Steph,
sure.
but like I gotta get it up. And then if the third goes in, like you're just hot. I think as a shooter, like your confidence just builds and builds and builds. It's just coming off your hand better. The rim looks big.
It is probably not advised by Steph. Now, we seen Caitlin Clark in college. Lisa Bluter never ever tell Caitlin Clark never to shoot, whether she thinks it's a bad shot or not. She gave Caitlin Clark free range to launch it. I guarantee you, if Cheryl Reeves or Sandy Bardola was coaching Caitlin Clark, they would never tell her not to launch from that distance, because they will want to see her shoot it and see her make the shot. Stephanie White wants to control the offense. She wants to micromanage the offense. She wants to slow the offense down. She don't want the offense to be so much quote unquote what she said in the beginning of the year, a free flowing fast offense. She wants it to be slowed down. She wants everybody else to touch the ball. She wants the Natasha Howard. She wants the Kelsey Mitchell. She wants the Leah Boston. She wants the Sophie Cunningham. She wants the Lexi Hall. She wants the Eric McDonald. She even wanted the Wanda Bonner before she, disappeared to touch the ball. When there's only one person supposed to be touching the ball. And the only person that has the range to shoot that far is Caitlin Clark. Now, Caitlin Clark went on to illustrate also the moment that she shared with Stewie doing that heater.
But yeah, I like that moment I had with Stewie when I made that one over her. Like, I don't know how I made that shot. Like, I barely got it over her fingertips. Like, Stewie's one of the longest players in the league.
Like 8 feet with her arms. Yeah.
And I just started laughing, and then Stewie was laughing because we were both like, "Wait, what? How'd that go in?" And then
she's
Sandy's
like, "What the
laughing.
fuck?" You're like, "What
Sandy's
the
laughing
fuck?"
behind me. It was a great picture, but yeah, I mean,
And that moment right there illustrate how Stephanie White, she wanted to control Caitlin Clark's momentum. Any momentum Caitlin Clark has with this team, she tries to control it and diminish it. People on X, I follow a few, but sometimes it gets a little bit too much for me because you got to see what's going on. You can't sit here. It's a point to be logical, and it's a point to be just blinded. And you got to see what's really going on. Stephanie White does not want Caitlin Clark to make them shots like that. Because so when Caitlin gets hot and she gets in the rhythm, she's okay if Caitlin misses a bunch of them. Because then she say, well, you know what, she's off. So we can move the offense in another direction. Even when Caitlin get hot, passing the ball and racking up assists, she slows the game down. She's trying to take every superpower away from Caitlin to make her more or less of a role player, pretty much. You can say what you will. You can say what I have gave Stephanie White a lot of grace and credit. And some things I can't. I can't because it's too in plain sight to see what is really going on. I'm one of the most optimistic people you may find. I'm one of the most logical thinking people you find. But I ain't stupid, I ain't blind, and I ain't crazy to the fact. Maybe. But the thing about it is, this Fever team has been so disjointed since Caitlin Clark been injured, and every time she comes back and she's trying to lead the charge, Stephanie White slows it down. She takes Caitlin Clark out. She'll put Eric McDonald in. Erin McDonald's great for what she does, but her purpose is just to back up Caitlin Clark, not to run the show while you give Caitlin Clark 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 minute breaks on the bench. Granted, yeah, Caitlin Clark is injured, but still manage her injury. You could still let her play at least 5 minutes, 6 minutes into the quarter. It's 10 minutes in the quarter, right? Okay, let her play 7. Give her half a minute break, a minute or two break, or play her 6, or whatever the case. Give her a minute or two break. Bring her in to close out the first quarter. Same thing. Let her start the second quarter. Give her a break midway through. Let her close out the second quarter. Halftime come up, start. As the quarter winds down, get to the third quarter, take her out. Go into the third quarter, bring her back in the beginning of the fourth. Then midway through the fourth, bring her out for a little breather. Then let her close out the game. That's how you manage it. You don't sit here, your team gets hot, your team gets on a roll, you take her out, then your team loses momentum, then they everything that goes on is driven down in the ground. Stephanie White doesn't want Caitlin Clark to be the star of the team. She wants stars of the team. I go back to this. She did this with Alyssa Thomas, and I ain't near no way of a big fan of Alyssa Thomas. No way, form, or fashion. But if you look how she managed Alyssa Thomas, look how Alyssa Thomas played this year versus last year, or the 2 years he played under Stephanie White. Stephanie White wanted everybody on the Connecticut Sun to get a feel of the ball. You can't do that. That's not how you run your team. And this is why Stephanie White's career has never been as successful as she she should have been, because her coaching style is too prehistoric and it needs to be more conventional. It needs to be more brought up. And if your star player is on a podcast and say, hey, I know if I hit one or two 3-pointers in the game, I'm hot. And I'm going for a third, whether you like it or not. You just have to get mad. Phil Jackson never told Michael Jordan to stop shooting. Phil Jackson never told Kobe Bryant to stop shooting. Heck, they never told Allen Iverson to stop shooting. Never told LeBron. Never told Steph. So why would you try to control a player with this magnitude and has this range in the game, and you can't set up plays for her? You see what they do. They don't set up plays for her. They don't run proper screens for her. They just want her to pass. And then when she's on a roll passing, you killed that also. So you just want her to be there to make everybody else look good. And when they can't even function without her, you could tell this team cannot function without her. Aaliyah and Kelsey's game has not been the same because Caitlyn Clark has not been injured. And the way she's being coached by Stephanie White is kind of like killing what Aaliyah and Kelsey has built with Caitlyn Clark last year, even Lexi Hall. And the way she's pulling Lexi Hall in and out of the lineup, by this time next year, hopefully the Fever could keep Lexi Hall. Because if y'all definitely don't think that Stephanie White is a problem in her coaching philosophy and her coaching style, then y'all crazy. You can sit here and take what you want from this podcast and say, oh, well, Caitlyn Clark was joking about it. Yeah, she's going to joke with Sue Bird. She's going to make it light of it. But you know deep down, Caitlyn Clark knows Stephanie White don't want her to take them shots like that. We already seen it last year when we talked about Chrissy Sides talking the long twos. Guess what happened? Second half of the season? Yeah. But I'm going to leave you with this before I sign off. Stephanie White better hope that Caitlyn Clark do not have to be out for the rest of the season in injury. Because if that's the case, Stephanie White's career is going to be one and done in Indiana. And that's my time. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Until the next episode, you know what it is. Because what? If you don't know, now you know.
Hey, so amazing. You see how they playing? Live wire. It's all about sports and entertainment. You don't want to miss it. So official, like you never seen. Keep it going till the whistle blowing from the referee. Everything from highlights and stats. You know that we gotta run it back. Whether on the field or the court. You know that this is where it's at. Subscribe, no delaying.